This video is somewhat of a follow-up to a previous video that I did on cognitive behavioral therapy for social anxiety. I had gotten a lot of responses from that video. It basically told me, it's great that you sort of went over cognitive behavioral therapy, but we want a little more information, on how we can sort of take action. Because in my last video, I basically explained how although CBT therapy, it is very effective, it's not an all-in-one solution. It's not a panacea or a cure-all. And there are supplementary techniques that you should be implementing if you really want to maximize the effect of cognitive behavioral therapy. It can definitely be an effective way to discover the causes of your social anxiety and certainly make a change in your life, but it's not the only way. And the techniques, they can be terrifying to put in action. I mean, the definition of cognitive behavioral therapy, maybe this isn't the definition, but essentially the theory is you're putting yourself into these situations that trigger these extreme bouts of social anxiety in order to essentially dull down the panic that ensues as a result of these triggers. It's not, a complete solution either, because you need to ultimately coordinate your own mindset with theory and practice. And sometimes theory doesn't work as well in practice. For me, I needed more. And I was suggested to write down situations that would cause me distress in a notebook. And I would find that, I was doing more writing than living. Instead of thinking about my hot thoughts, as I like to call them, I know it's a weird name for it, and rationalizing my hot thoughts. And if you don't know what those are essentially the negative, panic creating trigger thoughts. And I go into a lot more detail in other videos on those. But basically, they're the key thought in any sort of outburst of thinking when you're anxious about a given situation. Isolating the hot thought is the key to dealing with the thought and ultimately restructuring it into a positive thought, or letting it go, whichever is appropriate. And to apply cognitive behavioral therapy for social anxiety in practice is difficult. There are various simple strategies that you can use to rid yourself of social anxiety. And some of them include, writing it down, keeping a small notebook or journal, keeping daily notes of the anxiety triggers. It's a positive step in overcoming your anxiety. It's not going to do it alone, but it's going to sort of set the stage and allow you to create a game plan. And this works with cognitive behavioral therapy because, you're writing down real events that occur which trigger your symptoms or that you simply find difficult. And this allows you to analyze your thinking patterns. You see these events in front of you on paper, and you can start finding these possible thinking errors. Remember, none of this is your fault. I'm not trying to put blame on you. And nothing you're doing is wrong. Social anxiety is something that develops over a number of years. It's caused by a variety of external factors. Many are beyond your control. But writing situations and thoughts down, it allows you to analyze them and start taking the small steps needed to overcome the problem. Now, any time you avoid something in life, in social situations, make a note, whether it be a place, a person, or an event. And also write down any thoughts on what made you avoid the situation. So, for example, when I was at the height of my social anxiety, an amazing job opportunity came up, and it was this incredible opportunity, and I knew I could be a success if I just applied myself. However, I also knew that, as much as I wanted the job, I felt like, it's embarrassing to say, I really just felt like I would just explode into tears at the interview, from the anxiety that it just would put upon me. And it deterred me, and it made me feel like there was no point to even applying to the job. Using cognitive behavioral therapy in the real world, it allowed me to write down the situation and find key points that triggered the anxiety and sort of turn it over like I was analyzing someone else's situation. And it helped me to try and see the situation from an external perspective, being my own best friend and applying what I thought would be the negative automatic thoughts. Um, Facing the situation is terrifying. Smaller steps were needed then. You know, I devised my own plan of attack to overcome, this job interview anxiety, and I go through that kind of stuff with you in other training. Um, you want to use your own anxiety gauge. And this is important. As you write down events in your notebook or journal or whatever, try to measure them based on how anxious they make you feel. Use numbers, a number from 1 to 10, to rank the level of anxiety the situation causes. 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. And when you do this, you're going to start to see more clearly what are your hot thoughts, these negative panic-inducing thoughts, and what causes you the most distress. So, you're learning how to apply your own cognitive behavioral therapy for social anxiety by doing this, and you're beginning to take control of this situation. Think about what made you feel uncomfortable. Make a note of, what's making you feel uncomfortable at different times. For example, being served by the unfriendly cashier, left me with feelings of discomfort, it's funny to say these things out loud, which I targeted. I felt she was judging me. Maybe the way I was dressed, my posture, the way I ordered my food, whatever. Whatever the detail in a situation that leaves you feeling uncomfortable, make a note of it. It's important in your steps to using these cognitive therapy techniques. So what makes you feel uncomfortable? Again, it's all perfectly normal and acceptable. It doesn't need to be the same aspect that makes someone else feel uncomfortable in the same situation. But you should take control of these feelings and don't be held hostage by them. You want to target the emotion that you're feeling in one word if possible. Try to focus on one word that comes into your mind. You may have several words, but try to consolidate them into one emotion. Maybe look through your notes that you've been taking in your notebook or journal. During this time, when my social anxiety was at its highest point, this was a near impossible task until I came up with the idea of single word focusing. I had an argument which caused me a huge setback with my treatment. And after discovering through analyzing my thoughts and reactions that I simply didn't feel good enough, focusing on the single feeling words was paramount. And the argument had been with an old work colleague and had left my core, belief system it just felt like an open wound, And when walking past him in the hallways, I would look to see if he was in his office. It really took over my life for a while. And when learning to start mental sentences with "I feel," I was sort of able to delve deeper into what caused me to be upset and rationalize it and come to terms with what had happened, allowing me to believe, that I'm good enough, essentially. Be sure to, really take the time to implement these strategies of, writing down what's causing you to feel the way you feel and analyzing it. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but it's going to be well worth it because it's going to break this train of habitual thought that you have surrounding a situation with negativity. I really want you to check out the free video series that I've posted at socialanxietyfix.com because this video, it's just sort of the tip of the iceberg when it comes to implementing strategies for social anxiety. I have just a plethora of techniques and strategies in this free video series at the site, and they're really going to give you sort of a step-by-step action plan to start chipping away at your social anxiety day by day. So check out socialanxietyfix.com right now. You're going to love the videos and content on that site, and they're really going to make tangible results happen in your life. You're going to feel better when you start engaging in these social situations once you start implementing these techniques. So I'll see you there. Take care.